well, both you and I were in Iran back in May, and when I visited the nuclear facilities there, that was the impression that I got as well, that the Iranians, in any negotiation, they wanted to decouple the nuclear issue from all the other, because they seemed quite frustrated that whenever they talked about transparency, for example, on their civilian nuclear program, that this had to be linked into ballistic missiles, their partnership with Yemen or Hezbollah or Hamas. And essentially the efforts to pack everything into one, that this was not acceptable.
And I'm saying, why the Iranians put so much emphasis in saying it has to be the nuclear issue? It is really simply because, the arrangement has always been a nuclear agreement and a lifting of all sanctions on Iran. So they don't want to end up with, it being contingent now on other factors. That has been the basis of the understandings. That is the basis of the JCPOA negotiations. And so with Trump trying to add other files to it, links to the, Hezbollah. I mean, how would you ever define that? I mean, the Hezbollah have links to Iran going back 500 years. They actually founded the state. They took people from South Lebanon, were taken from the houses in Lebanon, and they set up the Safavid state. I mean, it's in marriage in every way. It could not be disentangled. So I mean, they can't have all these other issues put on it, because then sanctions would never be lifted. It has to be, all right, we have an agreement on nuclear issue, all sanctions lifted. And that's a matter of judgment. But as I say, I don't think that would be acceptable. And the Israelis are saying, we will not allow that to happen. I mean, in literally those terms, they said that to the Americans. We will put an Israeli block on that. And without a kosher, they use the term, without a kosher label on your negotiation, they won't succeed. So they're fully blocking that. So I think Trump is still looking for some sort of, as I say, how to sort of reverse out of his dilemma with, Lindsey Graham urging him to put forces on the ground and go and support, these land in Tehran and start looking for the opposition and trying to support them. I mean, I think these things are fantasy. So Iran does have a strong position, has a strong position vis-a-vis the United States, both against the Armada, against the military bases in the Persian Gulf, and against Israel itself, with the threat no longer qualified, no question of sort of a symbolic exchanging of missiles, or either.
Well, it seems that in any military campaign against Iran, the Americans would like to have some, as you said, some opposition or allies within Iran to assist them. So this insurrection is quite important. But what is it that we actually know about this insurrection now? Because there's a battle of narratives, and to be honest, I also don't have a clear overview of the actual facts. That is, what happened in Iran during the riots? I mean, how much had a domestic origin in terms of upheaval, and how much was directed from abroad? I know it's not either or; it will always have a component of both, but also, what do you make of these numbers that were provided in terms of how many people were killed? Who were they killed by? Has the Iranian government rolled up this armed opposition groups? What do we know so far?
What we know about this is really the following: that a number of trained insurgents, trained by the Americans in Armenia in their base, where they have 3,000 MEKs under training, and Kurds from Erbil and Kurds from who were being trained by the Americans also in northeastern Syria. These were the main components, coupled with some Baluch, but the Baluch didn't play a big part on it. They came in and they were inserted and then controlled overseas. They were inserted into Kermanshah province. The Kurds came through corridors in Kermanshah province, and Turkey provided the intelligence to Iran about their arrival and the corridors they were using. So most of those, a lot of those were killed or arrested on arrival. I think it was about 400 or 500 came in there. MEK, mostly CIA trained, came into the state, and they had clear instructions about to create maximum damage, maximum, if you like, maximum killing, maximum attack on people. So the strategy was an old strategy, which we've known from other places that the intelligence services use. They tell people to select bypassers, someone that they can, anyone chosen at random. And then usually at the same time, the women with the videos and with the cameras are then saying to the young men, attack him. And they attack him, and then they start shouting and they say, kill him, burn him, burn him. And they choose locations where there's a thoroughfare with many people there. And so people come and say, well, what's all the hubbub about? What's going on? And what have this man done that you're attacking him like this? And then there is usually someone on a rooftop who fires into the police or the security services when they arrive. And then, contrary to how, the television narrative, if you've ever been under fire, you know that you do not know where your shot is coming from directly. So then it becomes, and it was very vicious. These were the killing was much more vicious. They were paid about something like, young men were paid $10 to go and kill someone on the street. Older men were paid $5 to set dustbins in fire or to attack ambulances and break the windscreen. This was, there were lots of security forces. The majority of those killed were security forces and police because of the exchange of fire coming in. And the aim was to create the impression of, a building on fire, and that all the occupants are flooding out of the building and the building was about to collapse. And then Trump would come in with an attack and the whole thing would collapse and fall. The total number, the Iranians have produced the figures. It is just under 3,000 killed during the process. Plus, it's actually 29 something, plus a further 150 or so who have yet to be identified. But they name them. And they say, all right, if anyone says it's, 5,000 or 30,000, let's have the names of these people. But they have named everybody that has been killed in this, except for, as I say, some. One of the things that the protesters did was they burnt people alive. So, well, sometimes elderly people they poured gasoline on them and burnt. And there are images, you can see them if you have the stomach for it. But there are, videos taken by bystanders at the time of this happening, of people being set on fire. It was the playbook from what the management of savagery. This is the sort of thing that ISIS did when they came in Iraq into Mosul. They just were savage. Anyone that that they saw that they didn't like, they chopped their heads off, and it was really terrible. I remember talking to a young girl who'd come from Mosul when I was in Iraq at Kerbala, and she was in that, and I went to say something to her because she had an adult with her. She was young, maybe about 10, something like that. And I said, "What's your name?" And I got a blank look. And I said, again, "What's your name?" It's all right. I just want to know your name. And the woman next to said, she has not said a word since she saw her whole family slaughtered in Mosul. All her brothers, her sisters, and her parents were killed in front of her. And she has not uttered a single word since. So that image from the sort of tactics of extreme violence to create a situation in which it seems that it would be, that the whole fabric of the state was coming apart. Now even the Israelis say, well, look, there have been, there were no defections. There were no defections from the political leadership, from parliament. No one got up and condemned the government or the state. There were no defections from the IRGC. There were no defections from the army. There were no defections from Basij. All the institutions and structures of the state remained intact during that period. And you can see that in the Israeli press. I mean, if you come through it, you'll see the Israeli intelligence saying it didn't work. I mean, there wasn't. And what is more, their intelligence assessment was, this did not come close to bringing down the state. And what's more, Haxit never would have brought down the state. I mean, that final sentence was telling, saying effectively, this was perhaps, a bad intelligence, a bad analysis of the situation that Iran could be brought down in this way. And that's the Israeli security establishment intelligence assessment. I presume they pass back on to Trump, which is why he doesn't know what to do and why he's in a pickle. And he's in a pickle for other reasons, because things are not looking good. And also, trouble in Hormuz, trouble on the oil thing could easily precipitate a sell-off in the markets. I know you following the sort of what's happening to the dollar and gold and the silver quite closely, so you know that we've been in a period where we've seen the markets sort of, having about 3 crashes and then recover a bit, and then another crash, and then a recovery. And I mean, in short, they're very volatile, very, very febrile. And so, sudden, closure or war in Hormuz could be enough. I'm not saying it would, but it could easily topple the markets. And for Trump, the key thing is the look. That's what matters. It's got to look good. It's got to look as if he's strong. He's emerged as the dominant figure in this process. And much of this depends, coming up to the midterm for him, on having the markets still rising and soaring away. And, they are now so overvalued by historic comparison that, there are tremors in the markets as well as in the debt market. So, there are lots of calculations that he has to And so the Israeli conclusion as of this morning was we looked at through the extent, you can see it on our Substack, what is being said in the Hebrew press. This is nearly all in the Hebrew press, which is usually quite different from the English language press. In the Hebrew press, they're saying, there's no decision yet. And there may not be a decision for even weeks from Washington about whether to attack or what to do about Iran. So they are very cautious about it. But as I say, they have said, Netanyahu said categorically to Witkoff when he met with him, and said categorically, I will oppose it. You won't get endorsed. And if you don't get the endorsement of Israel for a nuclear deal, it won't work. It won't run in the United States. You will appear a loser.